Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. It's time to do the tier list recap for May 2024. Let's see how well our predictions did in the wake of half of the best wrestlers in the rankings falling to actual pieces. Quick note, big thanks to everyone who gave me a hand with pronunciations in the post I made yesterday, including Kamahiko, Daisa Shoryu, and Inazaru from the Road to Yokozuna Discord who offered to help over there. For those of you who haven't heard me talk about it before, Road to Yokozuna is a fun sumo game with a good inclusive community, and if that sounds like your thing, there's a link to our Discord server in the description. Alright, if I really booch some of these names, let me know. We had no S tier picks this basho, so we start with A tier. Hoshoryu and Kotozakura. Got these right, or maybe more accurately, at least these two guys stayed healthy enough to live up to expectations. In March it was 11-10 Hoshoryu, this time it was 11-10 Koto. The back and forth between these guys each tournament really comes down to who takes fewer dumb losses. Last time Koto lost to the busted up Battle Hamster and Kirishima, this time Hoshoryu lost to Atami Fuji and Oho. Hoshoryu's first two losses looked like he was hell-bent on throwing everyone, and he pulled it together when someone apparently got in his ear and reminded him he's allowed to use other tactics, but he still has no business losing to Oho. SA injury tier, nailed these so hard it hurts. Teru made it one whole match and left after losing to who might be his successor. His stablemate and other possible successor, Takeru Fuji, missed the whole thing because of his ankle, and Kirishima looked like a guy who should have just sat out and taken the drop to Sekiwake in the first place before he finally smartened up and left. B tier. Ono Sato obviously goes to S tier. Hoshoryu got him again, but overall there were too many guys missing who could have tested him. Even so, after this performance, it's hard to imagine who else is going to put up a fight apart from a healthy Asanoyama and Kirishima, and Teruno Fuji if he manages to get himself in shape for one more shot at the title. Shona Naomi and Kinbozan were right, although it looks like I was a bit off in terms of comparing the two. Kinbozan looked physically fine, but finished a win behind Shona Naomi. The clearest difference between them was Kinbozan's apparent inability to adjust when opponents have figured out a way to get the better of him, Ryuden being a primary example. Maybe someday he'll learn to think. Wakamoto Haru got hurt, so he gets the injury tag. He was 3-2 before he fought Daisho and injured his toe, so he looks on track. Midori Fuji, however, gets fired all the way down to D tier on the back of an absolutely baffling performance. I did say that a smaller guy like him can struggle if he gets figured out, but was this him just getting figured out by everyone all at once? In fairness, his schedule was harder than what a struggling Maegashira 6 should face, and only one loss out of 10 was to someone he'd beaten consistently in the past. But if anything, that's a sign I got blinded to the probabilities and put way too much stock in him. B injury tier also hit maximum disaster levels. Asanoyama was gone, Takakeisho made it through one whole fight, Takayasu dominated while he was around but missed almost a third of the basho, and Tsurugisho looked like he should have been fighting on crutches. Usually injury tiers are based on injury concerns, but some guys look hurt and some guys look okay. The top injury tiers this time were pretty much 100% dudes who need to go to the mechanic. C+ picks did okay. Ura, Tamawashi, Sadano Umi, and Ichi Yamamoto all fit the grade. I was hesitant about Daisho, but he looked reborn in the rage of failure and flew to A tier. Meisei and Oshoma both hit B tier, but they were strong C+ picks who happened to go even harder than expected. Also, Oshoma might be a dick, but I feel pretty good about calling him the one guy in the bottom 9 likely to succeed. And if that sounds like I'm patting myself on the back a little too much, rest assured that in most fantasy games, I picked Nishiki Fuji over him. Whoops. On the flip side, I figured the Nishikigi, who spent most of the last 2 years in the Joy or on the border, had to still be in there somewhere, which was wrong to say the least. And I'm not going to cheese out and say Nishiki Fuji's elbow or ankle must have been bothering him again. He looked way off, but he's done this enough that I have to take the hit for grading him wrong. Both of them were D tier. C-. It's a bit depressing to have the accurate picks be which guys will be hurt or struggle, but it is what it is, and we pretty much nailed C-. Mitakeumi was doing great until he wasn't, Takanosho was doing terrible until he wasn't, Koto Shoho was doing terrible until he wasn't and then went back to being terrible, and Chura no Umi slowly clunked to a stop. All of them finished 8 and 7. Then there's 7 and 8 Atami Fuji and Roga, and 6 and 9 Gonoyama and Tobizaru. Gonoyama and Toby are especially unfortunate because they didn't have to deal with the level of competition I anticipated before the tournament, and they still only hit 6 wins. Takarafuji, of course, sprinted out hard enough to get bumped to C+, despite the last third of the tournament, and Abi massively took advantage of the reduced strength of schedule to lock up 10 wins. With 2 Fusins over Takayasu and Wakamoto Haru, I could make him C+ if the rest of his schedule was on the weak side, but he normally dominates Waka, and he beat Hoshoryu and Kotozakura. Absolutely B-tier performance, really good job. Except for losing to Oho. Like, imagine you could have been fighting for the Yusho on day 15 rather than a spot in a playoff, and the reason you're not is that you lost to Oho. Gods. As for Mitoryu, his knees pretty much gave up the ghost, so tagging him injured makes sense even though he cratered hard while he was still in the competition. His movement was even more non-existent than usual from day 1. The actual C-level injury tier guys mostly looked like they were in the right spot. Tomokaze couldn't move, and Onosho, Shodai, and Hokuto Fuji all finished with 7 wins. Ryuden earned a B grade, but in my defense, I did say this was something he does once in a while. I just wasn't sure he still had it in him. His strength of schedule was also absolutely trash. That's not to say he didn't earn his 10 wins, he still knows exactly what he wants to do when he goes out there, and that's especially helpful against an opponent like Kinbozan, whose brain apparently refuses to engage with new ideas. But it's hard to imagine an easier run of opponents than the one he had for someone who gets to 10 and 5. And D tier. Toki Hayate acquitted himself well after his atrocious start but still finished 6 and 9. Oh-ho, I've talked shit on him a couple of times already, so it's time to blast. Except, I'm not gonna. I liked how Oho fought this Basho. He was losing and still consistently got after dudes and made them beat him. Obviously, he's not quite good enough to make up the gap between himself and the top guys through sheer effort, which is why some of his wins still look bad for the guys he beat, but he showed the level of effort people like me have been waiting to see for what feels like ages. It doesn't look like he'll drop very far, so he may be in for it again in July, but we might be able to expect him to legitimately do damage if he falls closer to the double digits. And then there's Hirado Umi. 9 and 6, move him to C+, and it's time to show this guy some love. Yeah, he benefited from the physical implosion of the Sanyaku, and even after a nice win over Abi, he was only 2 and 5 after 7 days. The schedule was going to get easier, but how well could he take advantage? And then, after beating Atami Fuji, who he absolutely owns, he ran pretty much directly through Oonosato. Can he do it again? I have my doubts because Oonosato clearly got caught off guard by the power Hirado Umi brought and then badly whiffed his slapdown attempt. I don't think that happens twice. But Oonosato's the new monster in the city, and Hirado Umi is the guy who will face charge the monster without a doubt in his mind. And sometimes that's what it takes to win. Let's not miss the fact that over the last 5 days he fought injured Waka, then 3 guys he's still never lost to in Gonoyama, Tobizaru, and Mitakeyumi. Beating Takayasu in there was real nice too, but still, it's wild that he can finish with this type of record at Maegashira 2 and still seem like he's unbelievably vulnerable to the schedule he's likely to have next tournament. Gauging him correctly in July is going to require busting out the Ouija board and figuring out everyone's health more than anything. But if that's what it takes, dear viewer, I will brave the darkness of the spirit realm and steal an ancient witch's secrets to maximize my prediction accuracy, and I'll do it for you. And that's the tier list recap. Not bad, not amazing. May have missed on a couple because of the injury mess, but may have also gotten a couple right for the same reason. As always, we'll try to do better next time. Finally, a couple of store updates, and I have a question for y'all at the end, so please stick with me for a minute. First, by request, the Bar and Grill store now has red stamp shirts. These are big versions of the artist stamps on the Pura and Tobizaru mugs we released a couple of weeks ago. The shirts have variants with the Sumo Kittens logo on the right sleeve, either in black or white depending on the shirt color, and a version with just the stamp on the front. Printful has limitations with just how many variations we can offer, so if you're interested in a shirt color that isn't available, or you want a 4 or 5XL variety, let me know and I'll see if I can get that set up for you. These are a unisex style shirt, but we are going to have a women's fit shirt and hoodies as well, and those will get set up after this video is released. All shirts and hoodies have free shipping to the US, Japan, and most of Europe, including the UK. Also, as you can see, we've significantly changed the prices of the mugs. Previously, they were $9.99, $11.99, and $13.99 for the 11, 15, and 20 ounce sizes. This price jump, however, has been offset by a major reduction to shipping costs. All mugs now have free shipping to most of Europe and $2.99 shipping to the US. That's flat rate shipping, not per mug. Also, for reasons I don't know or understand, the cost of shipping the extra large 20-ounce mugs to the UK and Japan are so much higher than the two smaller sizes that we can only offer free shipping to those countries for the regular and tall versions. I'm sorry about that, but it's the best balance between keeping prices reasonable for everyone and not losing money on orders where it's more expensive to ship. And now for that question I had. One thing I've discovered in setting all this up is that shipping is pretty cheap in Europe overall, but Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Iceland are all more expensive, and it's the same price to ship to those places. Does anyone know why? Leave a comment if you do, I'm immensely curious. Anyway, that's the tier list recap and store update. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.